the most important thing is storytelling, and that's for a couple of reasons, right? Like, first, when you're able to humanize someone and humanize a story, you're more effectively able to advocate and have other people relate to it. Because when you're able to tell a story, not just like say like, oh, here's the statistics, here's like a basic like description. When you're able to say, oh, here's this person, like person X, who has, experienced this thing, and that's how they led them to be in this situation, like more like specific details and stories, I think is really, really effective in having other people connect and having other people care about that cause.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. On today's episode, we have Kaitlyn Hou. She is firstly the HDSB Student Trustee, which is a huge role, by the way. She's also a 2 times TEDx youth speaker, the CEO of Orange for Change, and the National Media Manager at FBL Canada. On top of all this, she's a competitive dancer and literally just 11th grade AP student at Abbey Park. Kaitlyn is a passionate leader that's dedicated to speaking about a various amount of topics such as mental health and well-being and Indigenous voice and representation. And she is a role model to many, including myself. Thanks for joining us, Kaitlyn.
Thank you so much for that introduction. You're so sweet.
So before we even get started with the interview, I have a quick little fun question. So what are your thoughts on Block Blast? The amazing game, you know? Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like, I'm not a really big video games person. The last video game I played was probably like Subway Surfers or Geometry Dash, back in like fifth grade. So personally have not tried it, but like, do you recommend it? Should I download
Yes. It's very addicting. Just like in high school right now, it's like the best thing ever. Everyone's on it every second. Maybe they shouldn't be during class, but it's amazing. So you should definitely get onto it if you're ready for another addiction, like another addiction on
it?
top of TikTok and stuff.
I'm not sure if I'm ready, but I'll definitely give it a
Yeah,
shot.
no, I wasn't ready either, but then I was forced. But now we're here, so it's amazing. We love it. Okay, next question. So just learning about all the things you've done in your life are absolutely incredible. So my question to you is like who or what inspired you to take on as many leadership roles as you do, and what got you started as a youth advocate?
Yeah, it's a really great question. Thank you so much. Firstly, honored to speak with you. Hi, WOSS, we love you. So, really nice to be on this podcast. Definitely a lot of things inspired me. I would say particularly like the students that I lead and the peers around me are a huge inspiration. Not just people who may be older than me who have had various levels of accomplishments, but also, the people I lead, like our student senators. Every time, I step into that room, I just feel so inspired because all of you have so much passion. Even like grade sevens, grade eights, these like 11-year-old kids come pull up and they have just so many ideas and so much excitement. And it really fuels me to continue to do what I do, to continue advocating for your student voice. Another inspiration would obviously have to be, my parents, also different role models. So for instance, I started my nonprofit Orange for Change because I went to a conference in grade 9 and I heard an Indigenous teacher speak about various issues in healthcare in Nunavut and like back in her hometown. And that really connected with me. So I know we're probably going to talk more about advocacy and like storytelling later, but definitely like it really humanized me to different issues that happen across Canada. And I feel like it's kind of my role and duty to be an advocate because I'm in such a privileged position myself. So, kind of long story short, just a lot of different things, especially the people around me.
Yeah, I was definitely expecting you to talk more about the older people in life, but it's amazing how like student senators, which I also am one, are
Hey.
making you like inspired, which I definitely makes sense. Whenever you walk into that room, I swear we're all looking at you. You just walk in all confident, and you're also an inspiration to many. So it was great to learn that you also have a role model.
Yes, it's you. I'm so inspired.
Thank you. So you balance so many roles, like student trustee, CEO, TEDx speaker. How do you stay organized and motivated throughout it all?
Yeah, it's also a very great question. And to be transparent, there's definitely a lot of times where you lose like your spark, you lose your motivation. You have like 3 tests in 1 week, and it just feels like really difficult getting out of bed, because like maybe you slept late or you just have a lot of things going on. And that's just all part of being a student, right? Like, I'm not some type of person to hold up on a pedestal. I'm just like every one of you, a student who's trying to learn how to stay motivated and how to stay organized. I guess a big thing is just making sure you have like internal motivation and not just like fueled by something like something to get like, I don't know, some like recognition or anything else like that, but rather fueled by like people around you or fueled by like yourself and your inner drive and like this is my goal in life and this is what I want to do. Sometimes like if I'm like in bed and it's like there's 20 minutes before school starts, I just like think like, oh, is this really your value? Like you should probably get up and get going. Another thing that kind of continues to motivate me is just, and also like helping me stay organized, probably just like keeping track of things, like writing to-do lists. I know that sounds very cliche. Google Calendar is my best friend. I love it so much. Like you go in and you see all the time blocks and it just feels so great. But I know like it's normal to not feel motivated at some times, especially once you go into exam season. Oftentimes you're really just like hanging on by a thread, and I just want to make sure everyone knows that that's normal too, and especially when you're, for example, an IB student at WOSS who's juggling so many things like your IAs and your like essays and everything. Definitely very difficult, but if you can find the means to push on in your own life, that's all that matters.
Thanks for that. Lots of students at WAS will be great to hear that, especially the IB students. So moving on, what are some challenges you have faced as a young leader and how have you overcome them?
No, for sure. So, honestly, I haven't faced like too many challenges per se. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm really lucky to be surrounded with a really great network of people. I guess one thing I would say that I've kind of faced as a youth leader is definitely like some sort of like ageism, like once you step into a room, and there's like, for example, panelists who are like 5 years older than you, oftentimes maybe your opinion may be discarded, or they're just like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about, right? Like she's only in grade 11. Um, but I guess like how you can overcome that is just like, being proud of yourself and saying like, I'm here and I was able to get to where I am because of my hard work. And just like trying to stay grounded there. I think also definitely, um, I forgot the word for it, but like some sort of like identity crisis, like feeling like you shouldn't be where you are. I've definitely struggled with that as well. But also again, just reflecting on, the people around you and like the inspirations around you can really help you stay grounded into who you really are. But again, yeah, very lucky to not have had so many challenges. Definitely more to come. But those are the two main ones I've had.
Thank you for answering that. That makes so much sense though, because I feel like being such a young leader, such as yourself, and then there's so many other people, challenges are especially gonna arise because you're kind of in a world now. You see, there's some people just like they're here, and then there's those other people that are trying to do stuff, and then there's the people here, and they're like looking down upon you, and it's like,
Exactly.
what are you gonna do? But your tactics, again, very good, well said, because just keep yourself grounded. Everyone has identity crises. I do too, but sometimes you just gotta figure it out as you go. So moving on, as I've said, you've been involved with the Senate way before your term as a student trustee. So what did you like? How did your experience with Senate in the past like shape your experience into what you're doing right now as a trustee?
That's a very interesting question and definitely something I want to debrief here. Before that, just like my Senate experience in the past, like I actually wasn't like a true student senator, kind of a fraud. But you can ignore that. So at my elementary school, we didn't actually have Senate, like back when I was in grade 7 and 8. And then from grade 9 to 12, like honestly, in grade 9 and 10, like didn't really know that much about the student Senate process of selection. So like I definitely missed a few deadlines and things like that. I was fortunate enough to join the like Learning and Achievement Senate subcommittee, which was very, very eye-opening. That's definitely one of the reasons I applied, just being in that environment where I was able to learn from people all across Halton that I've never ever encountered in my life. Also joining the mental health and well-being task force. So that was led by Ethan, who was a student trustee 2 years before me. And that was also very, very eye-opening. Definitely got to learn a lot about the role there and seeing how he led. But something I want to say was just like Charlie and I were both never in student senate. Like I don't even think Charlie had any senate experience at all, and he's doing so well. So I think being a student trustee and like being qualified is never about having experience, like senate experience or anything like that, but it's rather about having those ideas because like your experience is just being a student, right? Like as a student, you've gained so much experience on, oh, what are the issues related to, education and mental health and equity in our school system and in my classroom. Like you learn all these things face on in your day-to-day life. So honestly, I feel like anyone who has the drive and the ideas are able to be a good student trustee as long as they feel passionate about these issues and as long as they are willing to dedicate that time and dedicate that time to like learn and to like getting things done and accomplishing different things. So I would say like I definitely have probably less Senate experience than many senators that I know that I lead. But I feel like other life experiences, just being a student for the HSV since like preschool, I feel really allows you to have also that type of like life experience that you're able to use.
So what you said actually resonates a lot with me, just because as student senators, again, we're not anything higher than a normal student. We're literally all the same. Anyone could be a student senator. That's the thing. Any single person. It doesn't matter if you came to Canada like yesterday, you can be a student senator. It's just about like it's a lot about like are you passionate about ideas? Are you a voice that wants to speak up about those ideas? And don't worry, you're not the only fraud. I was in the equity and inclusion last year, not as a senator. So I knew
Okay.
about Senate. We applied for Senate. It's fine. That's a well, now we're a senator, but
You're there now. You're here now.
you're totally right. Experience is something I feel like experience is kind of overrated. Like it's like for those like
Exactly. Yes.
there's some things where you need experience. And more than just experience, it's knowledge, not experience. It's like you
Mhm.
need the knowledge, not the experience. Okay, you've done something for 20 years, but there might be someone that's done it for 5 years that's better than you. So,
Yeah, and just like touching on that too, I know in other school boards, the way they choose their student trustee is like through Senate, like just senators, like 10, 15 senators go and pick. Like I feel like that's just not democratic, and that's why I love HESB so much, is because we're able to, sign up if we feel passionate and you're able to have like a fair shot, right? Like obviously, I feel like there's a lot of issues with the election system that Charlie and I hope to resolve this year, but genuinely I think it's really nice that we're all able to have a fair shot. It's not just like, you're only in Senate, and if you're only in Senate, you're able to make a difference.
and
And
some
same
people
with
don't have the
people who are
opportunity.
not, yeah, same with people who are not in Senate, like students who maybe were like me and missed the deadline or like didn't get it, which is totally okay. Like your voice still matters, and there's still so many ways to get involved. So like if you're not in Senate this year, don't worry at all. Doesn't mean anything. But if you are in Senate, love you.
Get a little extra, but it's not. You're totally right. Like everyone deserves the opportunity, not just people in Senate. And you know what? I never actually knew that other boards did that. And you just made me love the HDSP a little more.
Yes.
So
Right.
Let's move on to your podcast. Great answers, though. So, your podcast, OFC Voices, amplifies real stories and voices. So, how do you think storytelling is a powerful tool for change?
Yeah, great question. That's definitely a great question. I remember talking to people at the Ontario Student Trustee Association. There's this girl a while back who was the vice president of research and policy, so basically in charge of writing up different policies and kind of supporting people in bringing different recommendations to the Ministry of Education, which is such a big role, right? And the biggest tip and advice that she said and many more people say is the most important thing is storytelling. And that's for a couple of reasons, right? First, when you're able to humanize someone and humanize a story, you're more effectively able to advocate and have other people relate to it. Because when you're able to tell a story, not just say oh, here's the statistics, here's a basic description. When you're able to say, oh, here's this person, like person X, who has experienced this thing and that's how they led them to be in this situation. More specific details and stories, I think is really, really effective in having other people connect and having other people care about that cause. And I use storytelling a lot, not just through, this podcast and amplifying stories there and hearing stories from, Indigenous individuals across Canada, but also in policy and pitching, for example, the mental health initiative to different trustees. You have to specifically show them why this mental health day is so crucial. Why does mental health matter so much in schools? You're not just gonna say, oh yeah, blank percent of students suffer from mental health. Because what does that even mean, right? You want to go deep. I've struggled with mental health. I've had to overcome these specific things, and that's how it led me to connect with the mental health day idea. Having a specific person that you're able to, showcase is really important. I think also you mentioned I was the media marketing officer for FBLC or FBL Canada. Humanization in nonprofit spheres too is super important because you're really trying to stand out from your competitors and everyone is online, and that's the joys of having, such a nice online space because there's so many opportunities for people to start their own initiatives. But by humanizing it, you're able to, draw more people to come to your conference or support your cause. But kind of moving aside from just storytelling as a whole, in terms of this podcast, I think stories and giving them a platform to self-determine and express their authentic voice is the most crucial because especially in this colonized environment that we have today, it's definitely not my place to be telling those stories, but it's definitely my place to be learning, and I feel like it's a place of many students to also be learning from Indigenous mentors and people across Canada. So having that platform where they're able to, self-determine and express their authentic selves and tell stories how they want to, I think is very, very valuable and definitely something I want to uphold. Sorry for that yap. Oh my God.
No, that was inspires a lot of I was literally just watching you in awe, like don't worry. Because it makes so much sense. Just the idea itself is amazing. You made this whole entire OFC, when I first learned about it, it was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And then I learned it's from you. I was like, that's even more cooler. So
I love you.
and I'm literally interviewing you on a podcast. I love podcasts. I literally love to
I
listen to
love
podcasts.
podcasts.
So
I literally have three. It's crazy. I
I'm always
just
listening
love
to one.
yapping. It's amazing.
So it's so cool. It's you've made something that everyone can listen to on the go while they're still learning. So I appreciate that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
let's move on to your personal endeavors. So how is you are a competitive dancer, a great one at that. If you've seen your Instagram, you're anything, you're an amazing dancer. So how has dance impacted your life and what makes it so important to you?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Definitely in so many ways. I've been dancing since age 2, age 3. And I feel like dance has above like trusteeing and everything, because I've just done it for so long, it has taught me like so many values and so many skills that I hold every single day. I feel like beyond just, oh, this girl like she does dance, like an athlete, fun. Definitely taught me a lot about like time management and making sure that you're like organized and committed to your teamwork, so many things. Like, for example, if you like go straight from school and you go to dance from like 4 to 10, like 6 times a week, right? You need to know how to prioritize and you need to know how to make sure you still, do your homework and fulfill your other like leadership roles while also juggling something. And that's why like every time someone says, "Oh, I'm an athlete," or like they have such a high level commitment, I really, really respect that individual because you know that you just learn so much from, being on like a competitive team and having other people count on you. Besides that, I think it definitely helps in like storytelling and like self-expression as well. Just because, through movement you can tell so many different stories. The summer after grade 9, I actually went to this like pre-professional dance intensive in New York, and I got to dance with like Rockettes and different other individuals. It was so amazing. Like definitely the best experience ever. But like the main thing that we were learning there was just like how to story tell through dance. And I think that also connects hand in hand with advocacy, right? Like I've done dances related to, feminism, and like I was dressed up as like a 1950s housewife saying, "Don't kick me under the table. Like I have my own voice, I'm a woman, I'm a person." Or, telling stories of like grief or telling stories of like political, like aspirations and things like that. I think just overall, it's definitely such a great place to express yourself and tell your own story through choreography. So definitely taught me a lot, both artistically and also like time management and like general skills. So everyone, you should join dance.
Yeah, I totally do respect a lot of athletes. I know how much they like I'm not an athlete, that's fine. But I know so many people that put so many hours into the sport while being a student. Well, like just being a student is it's crazy. And then having all this other stuff. So respect to everyone that does do competitive sports or sports in general. Like, as I can't run properly. Anyone who's like crazy. So, and I do. I watch a lot of dance on YouTube, just like with
Dance
mom.
moms.
We love dance. Dance is amazing. And you're right, it does give a lot of stories. Like you can feel like dance is something where you can look at it and you understand. Like no words are needed. That's very
Yeah.
powerful. So we're nearing the end of this interview. And one thing, like we have two more questions, but my question to you is for students who want to get involved in leadership or start initiatives, what are some first steps you recommend? And if you watched Kaitlyn's TEDx Youth episode, you might
Oh,
already
did you
have a
watch
few.
that?
Yes, I did.
Uh-huh.
Um, stop.
Oh, Lord, help. Okay.
So you might know a few things, but carry on.
Yeah, definitely something that I talked about a lot in my TEDx speech, but just overall is, just get started because you'll never regret starting, but you'll always regret not starting. And that's something I had to learn the hard way. As a grade 11 student nearing the end of my high school career, there's so many things I wish I started that I wish I just like did, and I was like scared or I thought like other people would judge me. Like no one cares. Like the only person that you're hurting from not starting is yourself. So make sure that you don't care and you just get started. But also make sure that you're starting for the right reason. So I know a lot of people come up to me, they're like, "Kaitlyn, how do you start a nonprofit? How do you start this? How do you start that?" And like their end goal might be just, doing it to do it. But I think somewhere to get started is picking like a field that you are truly passionate about, that like if you didn't have to apply to college in like 4 years, or you didn't have to uphold different societal expectations, like you would still be interested in that topic and you would still want to advocate for it. Making sure that you have that mindset going in and not just, oh, what can I gain from starting XYZ? that's like the best way you make sure that you create something that's number one, impactful, number two, long lasting, and number three, something that you genuinely care about and that you would like to continue on into the future. So definitely like making sure that you're doing it for the right reason and then just getting started.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, last question. What's one message you hope students leave with in this interview today? Just one message. Just sum everything up into one thing.
Awesome. Okay. I think one message that I hope students would leave with, um, oh my gosh, so hard. I'll like combine like multiple into one sentence, like a nice run-on long message, but it would be to get started on whatever that you want to. Um, like you can do it. I fully believe in you. But also as a student, make sure to prioritize yourself. Um, if you need anything, like I'm always available. My like call, Instagram DMs, anywhere, my podcast, anything. I'm always available to talk. If you're not a student senator, your voice still matters and it continues to matter. So your experiences matter, your mental health matters, you matter, and your ideas matter. So just get started and please reach out if you have any questions or concerns.
Thank you for that. Very inspiring last words. So, thank you again for coming with us, Kaitlyn, on this great episode. It was quite the journey, and I hope you have a great day. So, that's a wrap of WOSS Weekly, the podcast. Have a great day.